Alrighty. So, I found an interesting map the other day, which explains a lot. It's this map right here, this top part, which is an antipodes map. So this map, I mean, when I found it, it was oriented north was up, but either way, it basically shows the antipodes of every place. So shows whatever's on the opposite, direct opposite side of the planet. So the only places that have literal antipodes of actual land are these ones in the dark orange. So it's, the main ones are just Greenland being antipodal to Antarctica, and then southern South America being antipodal to China and some, these inland parts probably into Russia or something, Siberia or something. And then also Siberia is also antipodal, or the same kind of region is also antipodal to the peninsula of Antarctica, which of course makes sense since South America and Antarctica are so close together. So in a way, it's ironic that it's only these small little like peninsulas that are antipodal to land, and none of these, not much of these large land masses are. Anyway, this is basically a key to understanding why the oldest of the underworld maps that we have, or at least that I know of, this is the 5,500-year-old Egyptian, Hierakonpolis map from Tomb 100 at Hierakonpolis. And you see that this was painted on the southwestern wall. So it was painted like kind of in the direction of South America, you could say, or I don't know. But instead of showing South America, on the left side, since the left side would be the southern side and the right side would be the northern side, what they did is they flipped it north to south and east to west. So it took me until now basically to figure out why they did that. And now I understand, I basically understood that it was the antipode concept of everything being opposite in the underworld, but this gives me a much more concrete idea of why they did it, that this, that even a modern antipode map will do the exact same thing for very logistical reasons, because everything, the points that are antipodal, like the lines of antipodalism, you could say, are opposite, so South America is antipodal to this part of the northern hemisphere. The furthest north part is antipodal to the furthest south part, and of course left and right, east and west, north and south, they all become their opposite, I guess, in the underworld, in the antipodes. So so this is fascinating to me, because looking at these two maps, like just the whole shape of everything, obviously they made America smaller for some reason, and I believe that the reason for that is that it's seen as being far away. but it could also be so that they can fit all these different boats around it. You know, there could be other reasons that they made America so small compared to all the other land masses. Like this seems to be West Africa, South Africa, Antarctica, East Asia, Siberia. So, you know, that's the one distinction, is that in this version they make it smaller. But in a sense, if they're trying to show it as an antipode and as super far away, that might make sense as an even further, you know, tool in actually further explaining the reality. So, you know, and it's interesting. I mean, it's cool that they happen to use the same color in this antipodes map that was used in this one. And, you know, it's kind of just by luck that I thought to flip this map over east to west and check if it could be, because at first I was already checking to see if this was America, but I was like, it seems like they have it backwards somehow. But then when I flipped it, I realized that it was deliberate for some reason. And but it makes sense, also explains part of why other people haven't recognized it, because it's so flipped around. They have not, you know, recognized it for what it is or what it was. You know, here's a version of it. Like in this one, there's a faded portion there in North America, and you know, that portion is faded for some reason. So I made another version by just changing the color, you know, doing just in my little photo app, whatever, desktop thing, just change the color a bit to where it somehow is able to show the missing piece there, the missing, the faded part of North America better. So I tend to use this version for that reason, even though in general it's not as good a version in terms of, you know, like for instance, there's a boat here that's very difficult to see in this version because of how I had to alter the colors. So, you know, kind of doing full spectrum, I just have different versions for different things, but you know, this shows actual North America much better as one continuous landmass. You know, and it's interesting that that, you know, China and South America are one of the only places that are, you know, are two of the only places that are land that are antipodal to each other, other than Greenland, as far as a significant swath of land, and that was the basis for, seemingly, for Ptolemy's system of geography, and probably older ones as well, that he said that the islands of the blessed, the Insulae Fortunatae, are 12 equinoctial hours or 180 longitudinal degrees from eastern China. So that is to say antipodal. So it's talking about this longitude, and this was the longitude that was used as the prime meridian for the ancient, not through China, but on the Western Hemisphere, like through South America and North America. There are only a few, and it's interesting that this also happens to be one of the only, this antipodal part happens to overlap with some of the only longitudinal lines that actually touch both North and South America, because most of South America is east of most of North America, or much of South America is entirely east of North America, and much of, yeah, and vice versa, of course. So so this explains why the Hirakampolitan map was like this. There were also later maps done in the same style somewhat. I think some of the later books of two ways that were based on somewhat the same system. There are maps of America that are also flipped in the same way. I think B1L, Coffin B1L of Deir el-Barsha. So here's an interesting thing. Oh, well, first of all, I wanted to, explain more about that map. There's another, like the actual wording of Ptolemy, he says the Sinai, or he says Sinai is 12 equinoctial hours from the Islands of the Blessed. So even if it was Sinai, it would basically be America, because that's only lines up with Alaska, or maybe Hawaii, I guess you could say. So yeah, but everything suggests that Sinai in this context meant China, that it was the Latin for China, because he says that it's very far from Egypt, whereas this Sinai actually is in Egypt. So but yeah, by it being China, then yeah, it goes to this longitude, which passes through part of, like the eastern tip of North America, and might pass through Greenland. And so yeah, that would be the Islands of the Blessed, the ancient prime meridian. Let's see. So this is the same map, the 5,500-year-old map from Hierakonpolis Tomb 100. You can see, this is a closer up view. This is the Gulf of Mexico. This is, Florida with much wider coasts during the Ice Age, or, towards the Ice Age when the sea level was much lower. You can see here Baja California coming out on the west coast. Here's Hudson Bay, of course, and this, I'm not entirely sure what this is. So yeah, that's could be probably any number of islands or something, but this one is Greenland. This one might be Iceland, and then this one might be it's probably Newfoundland. And then this one, I would think if this one's Iceland, this one could be the Faroes or something. Who knows? This could be, and also there were probably a lot more islands at that time that don't exist anymore because of the rising sea level. So this seems to be the compass of sorts, as far as I can tell. They used different colors for different directions. So not exactly sure which is which, but there you go. This character, not really sure. Seems like might overlap with Venus, but it could be something terrestrial. And like these, for instance, could be like Ursa Major, potentially, if these are Yeah, I'm not sure though. If they're dogs, they could be like Anubis. So, you know, and they have these boats that are significant and appear again in later versions from, you know, 4,000 years ago and 3,000 years ago and perhaps later. So, you know, this is you can tell that it's pre-dynastic, that it's over 5,000 years old, because there are no hieroglyphs. And, you know, the ancient Egyptians, once they developed hieroglyphs, they used it on, they put that on everything. So you know that this is pre-Bronze Age. This is Copper Age. So, and this is, I'm not sure what this might be. I mean, this could be that kind of, yeah, some part of Asia, I suppose. But so anyway, this is what archaeologists did to this thing. They erased it. They said that, you know, there were people on the internet who were saying it looked like a map, and they, you know, they hadn't flipped it around, so they didn't realize what kind of map it was, but they were thinking maybe it was even a world map or something. And I mean, they were mistaking, I think the websites that were talking about it, they were mistaking the land for water. But nevertheless, I believe that that's the reason, or maybe even my work, you know, I hope it's not from my work, but for some reason whoever was in charge of this site at Hierakonpolis took it upon themselves to, basically they claimed that this, A, it's not a map, and B, it's a stain. That's their claim, that this was a stain. But one major problem with that is it's on the wall. I mean, one problem is it's a map. You know, you can see, once you flip it the right way, you can see what it is. But another major problem with that, even at the outset, is it was on the wall of a tomb. So it was completely enclosed in the desert, in a desert tomb. Like, there's nothing that's gonna stain it like that. There's nothing like, you know, like the stone walls or whatever are not gonna just start leaking. You know, I mean, it's just like, how does a stain like this just appear randomly in the middle of a wall of a tomb that's been buried for 5,500 years? So it seems absurd just at the outset. One thing people can understand from this, at least, is that Egyptian people were not white. They were basically black people, dark-skinned people, Africans. And you can see that from the earliest art. But yeah, so it's interesting, they erased it, and by erasing it, they kind of proved themselves wrong, and they kind of proved those of us right who saw it as a map, and who saw it as not a stain, because, like, ostensibly, I would say they were erasing it so that they could find something underneath it. I mean, I would question their commitment to any kind of finding of anything or preservation of anything by the fact that they somehow managed to destroy this part of it too, which is not even, it's like on the other side of the boat from the map. So somehow whatever they did, chances are it was the same thing. It was whatever they did to erase the map ended up basically erasing almost the whole painting. And then it looks like they just repainted a bunch of stuff, and then they painted a couple little more things like here to say like that, or they painted, yeah, I think they painted this to say, oh, look, this is what we uncovered. Look what we did. We uncovered this. It's not even there. Like they showed stuff here that, or no, here it is. Like they added this goat. So this goat is supposedly what they uncovered. And honestly, there may have been a goat on, I don't know, maybe there was a goat underneath the map, but that's neither here nor there. But it's just funny because here you see, unless, no, see, because that is, yeah, I think they just added this stuff, like this person. Okay, I'm getting lost now. Which part is what? So this is here, so that should be, so that's like right up here, like above here. And there's nothing like that. Like there's nothing like here that's, it's supposed to be under this boat. There's nothing there in the original. There's neither of these things are there. And like they just put them on to say, oh look, we did a good job. We erased the whole painting, like the oldest painted tomb in Egypt. Erased it. These archaeologists did. But look, we painted these little guys here for you, so it's basically win. So anyway, that's what we're up against. Those are the experts of this world. Those are the experts in charge of history. So, you know, the same Hieropolitan map could have been used by Ptolemy or whoever added this peninsula on here, because it seems that it's, you know, this Easter Island or something sticking out from the Nazca Ridge from Peru. And it's in the same, you know, they like in Ptolemy's map, there basically is a coast. There is like a west coast of America. There's just there's just only a small part of the east coast of America. So yeah, that points to this Easter Island, Nazca Ridge. That points to the potential long influence of that map or that model of map. But yeah, you know, here's where it says it's 12 equinoctial hours or 180 degrees, a semicircle from China to the Islands of the Blessed. So that points to America. And then also that same Hieropolitan map may have influenced the mistaken coastline here, because maybe they didn't realize that the Hieropolitan map was tilted. I don't know. But here's where it indicates where Brazil is, where the closest part of America is to Africa. And it calls it, you know, the Islands of the Blessed, Insulae Fortunatae. That was back when we used to have healthcare over here. Plutarch. So yeah, here's that. Here's the Antipodes map as it kind of was. This is how I found it, just oriented like this. So since this is basically made for an Afro-Eurasian audience in a way to view, since they put the Western Hemisphere quote unquote upside down by modern standards. And so by the same token, the Egyptians, when they were looking west at America, they flipped it the same way and they showed it the same way, but with west as up, because that's the direction of the wall that it was painted on. And that's just how they tended to orient things, with west being up, direction the sun travels. So yeah, this shows China antipodal to Argentina, and see, this guy says, this is Lucio Russo. He says that that Ptolemy originally, he like Ptolemy himself got it confused. He he knew from earlier people that the islands of the blessed were 12 equinoctial hours or 180 longitudinal degrees from eastern China. But because he got confused about what the islands of the blessed were, or there's a chance that he deliberately confused the matter to throw off the hoi polloi, that therefore that's why his map is so, like, it's like a mix. Like, he used multiple like prime meridians. So yeah, like he used one for, he knew how far the original Blessed Isles were from West Africa, it seems. And so but then he screwed up Spain, he screwed up Europe, because he tried to, I think he confused it with the Canaries, and he may have also confused it with the Azores, because the way he did Spain, it makes it seem like it's the prime meridian is the Azores. I gotta get rid of all these things. But yeah, I mean, this is a crime. Like, everybody should see this as a crime. I don't care how deluded they were or how much they supposedly really believed, then they shouldn't be doing their job. They shouldn't be in that position. This was like on the level of the Bamiyan Buddhas. Arguably this is worse, because there are a million Buddha statues. There was only one of this in the planet. 5,500-year-old antipodes map, and just deliberately erased by modern archaeologists, because that's what they do. They suppress information, spread lies, and destroy. They've destroyed a lot of sites, often to, like, quote unquote reconstruct them, but oftentimes they basically just destroy them and then just rebuild them however they fancy. So I think if anybody can look at this and see, like, the same shapes all throughout, and every part of this is the same, and say, like, oh, this is a stain, or no, this is something else, like, I think that's a sign of inability to recognize patterns, which I think is widespread, but I think is more of an issue because of people deliberately not wanting to follow the patterns for fear of where they might lead. So this shows the influence of this tradition. You can see these boats. I flipped it around for this, but to have it like a bird's eye view. But these are the boats that we see again in this coffin text from 4,000 years ago, from a woman in Hermopolis. And then this is another one from 3,000 years ago from Book of the Dead, the Papyrus of Ani. And they all have these similar boats alongside America. 1, 2, 3, 4 in this one. 1, 2 in this one, but then there's a similar dock shape there. And then in this one, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. But some of these are, I think, the same boats. Like, I think this might be the same as this. This might be the same as that. This is the same as that, I think. Okay. So anyway, this 5,500-year-old map had a lasting impact, I think, on Ptolemy's map, but also throughout Egyptian, ensuing Egyptian history. And it was erased. And, it's like humanity needs to value knowledge and not accept its destruction and all the lies and nonsense that are perpetuated. All right, so I guess I'll end it there, but there you go. Hierakonpolis Tomb 100, 5,500 years old.